Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen from Inspired Classroom. We're getting a little feedback right now. Jess and I are in the same room, so masked up. Thanks to our sponsors, Blackfoot Communications. Thanks for you guys for being here and being brave and courageous this school year. If Jess asked you to put your name and grade level that you teach in the chat box, if you wouldn't mind doing that, it's a way for us to take roll. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jess and let her do her mindfulness thing. Hopefully we'll all just relax after lunch. So go ahead and put your name in the chat box and we'll get going.
All right, I tried muting myself to see if that feedback would be better. Did I unmute myself correctly? Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. It didn't help, but that's all right.
Let's do a tech. Why don't you just ask them for sure if they can hear you?
All right, can everybody hear me? Do a little thumbs up if you can hear me. Cool, good. Oh, hello. I want us to start with a couple breaths and then we'll dive right in. We do peace breaths most frequently. Breathe in through the nose. And you're going to say peace on your exhale. Peace. Do 3 of those with me and then we'll begin. Peace. Right. It is so good to see you. So I can't see everybody, so I'm actually going to ask in just a minute for you to say something so that you show up on my screen so that I can see who all is here. And then I just love you to tell me who it is you're going to be teaching. I also noticed we just did a session right before this. It's really hard for me, just as if you were in the room with me, if you are moving around doing other things, or not participating and doing what we're doing, that's actually very distracting, and I'm new to this Zoom thing. So I'm asking you as best as you can to try to be really present here doing this so that we don't have a lot of distractions on the screen. I can see a few of you at a time. And please forgive me, this is all very clunky for me. I don't do Zoom stuff. I haven't wanted to do a lot of online stuff, and yet I would love to get a few tools into your hands. So I'm willingly, but I'm sort of being dragged into this. But I'm willing, I'm here, and I have some really, I know, right? We all are. I'm sure you're not alone on that. And I have a lot of really, hopefully, a few ideas of how yoga can help us in this pandemic as well. So let me just say who I am really quick, a little bit more about what we'll be doing, and then I want to hear from you. And I guess the other thing for setup, we will be moving. I think I'm going to have us be sitting and talking and breathing and doing mindfulness for just a few moments as we digest our lunch. And then we will be doing some movement. So I'll kind of transition us to that place, and you'll want to have some space around you. So maybe if you can just have a plan for yourself of how you would do that in your mind. Right. So my name is Jess Matthiae, and this is, I think, my 5th or 6th year of doing the August Institute. Never online, mostly in person, which is really nice to be able to connect. But now we have to shift that and learn how to connect in other ways. And I live here in Missoula, and I teach at, I own Peaceful Heart Yoga, which is a yoga studio in town, and part of that is Peaceful Heart Preschool, a yoga-inspired preschool. And I do lots and lots of classes for educators. We actually have a kids yoga teacher training that we've been doing once or twice a year that is designed to do all of this, but in 30 hours instead of 2 hours. So if you are interested in more, there's that, and there's tons of other things available online right now. So if you like what's happening here, this is just a taste. Please take it farther. There's so much out there. And I think just a quick Google search would be better than me telling you any of the programs that I know of, because they're all going to be pretty good. We are going to cover today a few basics. We'll be doing a little bit of breathing, a little bit of mindfulness concepts for children of all ages, but I do tend to work more around the younger kids, but some of the stuff I do for you will be really good for the older kids, and I'll bring in some of the older child components, especially once I see who you are teaching. And we will talk a little bit about what yoga and mindfulness can be like for you as the educator. And that really is my focus this time, is how can you stay healthy and sane and grounded using the concepts of yoga. And I should say yoga is, in case you don't already know, a lot more than just movements. So moving is so good for our bodies, and I'm going to bring that in a lot today. But moving is only one component of yoga. There's breathing, there's meditation, there's mindfulness, there's just being self-aware is really at the core of yoga. I've been studying this for, I don't know, 15 years, and I'm still learning more every single day. But I will only be giving a little taste today. So a few breath work, a little bit of movement for the kids, a little bit for you, how to stay sane. And then I will dive into yoga for a pandemic. And there's actually a whole write-up on that in your Drive folder, just some thoughts about this pandemic and how it's actually the antithesis of yoga. It's very, very bad for us what we are doing, the disconnect, whereas yoga is connection. So we're going to be creative and proactive rather than being dragged along, and hopefully be able to get out of this healthier and with new parts of our brain activated instead of bruised and hateful. Let's see what we can do. This meaning the pandemic, not this course. So there'll be those 3 segments basically. Now I would love to just hear and see you really quick. So is there a way for you to do that, moderator? Would that make the most sense? Just one person at a time.
If I just unmute somebody's microphone, call on them.
Okay, and then I would just love to hear.
My mute.
There we go.
And
And then if I would just love to hear your name and what you teach. And so Kathleen's going to be moderating that. She'll
Sorry.
give you one at a
I'll
time.
just move over so I'm closer to this microphone.
Ooh. Kathleen is actually a ghost.
Spookiness. All right. Oh.
And I'm not at the ocean. I'm in the studio.
These are our fake virtual backgrounds. Okay, so why am I still doing? R. Smith, introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Roxanne Smith from Fort Peck Community College. I work with a program called the Chante Project, which Chante means heart. And what we do is we do a lot of social emotional learning activities with the local schools on our reservation. And so we work with kids grades 7 through 12 with after school activities. And then this summer we did some summer camps. We did a quarantine camp, which was really fun. We had teachers that actually went and visited kids at their homes, and it was all done online. So we've been trying to be very innovative in adapting to the way the world is these days. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Roxanne.
How about Amy? I'm going to unmute you,
hopefully.
It's like in The Little Mermaid.
There you
we
go.
get your voice back.
Amy.
I'm Amy Sheets. I teach kindergarten, first grade combination in Dayton.
Awesome. Let's go to Andrea. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'm Andrea Tugas, and I teach preschool through 8th grade at Ovando School.
Good to see you, Andrea.
Huge range.
Yeah. How about Francis? Go ahead and unmute yourself, and Andrea, mute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me? My camera is not working.
Yeah, you're fine. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. My name is Frances Bonet, and I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Franklin Elementary here in Missoula.
Awesome, thank you. How about Jordan?
Hi there, my name is Jordan Kraus, and I teach kindergarten at Lowell School in Missoula.
I love it. All right. How about Judy?
Hi, I'm Judy O'Reilly, and I teach here in Missoula, 7th grade, social studies. And my camera, I can't get to work. I apologize.
We understand. That's how we roll. Good to see you. Or not see you. Lindsay, unmute yourself.
I'm Lindsay King, and I also teach middle school in Missoula, and I've taught Spanish for my whole career, but I'm going to teach a class, an exploratory class called Communities and Cultures this upcoming year.
Lindsay's an amazing teacher. We're working with her on a project. So hi, Lindsay. Lori, how about you?
My name is Lori Frescus. I work at Creston School, a student teacher for 2nd grade.
Ooh, student teacher in the time of COVID. Woo, love it. Melanie, introduce yourself. Baby.
Hi, my camera doesn't work either. I'm Melanie. I've taught at this Met school for 31 years. This year I'm teaching kindergarten.
Oh, Melanie, you do have a camera on because we see you.
I have a camera, but it freezes.
Oh, it's your bandwidth then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens. How about Sarah? I don't think we've had Sarah.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I teach high school Spanish. I am going to be teaching at the new high school in Bozeman, Gallatin High School, and I've used a little bit of yoga and mindfulness in my Spanish classes in the target language, and it's always a big hit with the kids. So
nice. And we've got a couple more. Scarlett, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm here on my phone in my closet because my kids are in the living room.
I hear you.
Big Fork High School librarian, YTT trained, and doing an extension class with high schoolers, a 35-minute extension period where I will use meditation and mindfulness and yoga and everything.
Oh, that's so exciting.
That's so fun.
Thank you.
Shanta.
I'm Shanta Milne, and I teach at Crescent School in Kalispell, and I teach kindergarten.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have one that says Motorcycle Girl, so I'm a little scared. Motorcycle Girl, introduce yourself. Interesting.
Do we have an image or no?
No.
Okay. All right, is that everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are there together. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, I'm not going to remember all your names, but you who was doing the extension class with the high schoolers, and anybody else interested, maybe that's it. I'll have a contact sheet in that drive folder. I would love to give you a little more information specific to what you're doing, and you can get in touch with me with any questions that you have, and I can put you in touch with other people. And as you start, if you have questions, I would love to answer some of those for you. So make sure you take a look at that at the end as well. All right. So as we were all talking, I'm thinking about these kids, and more than ever, they are, it feels like not only is this pandemic happening, but it's broken everything apart. There's just lots of chaos unfolding out there. And I'm going to go into this a little more in detail later, but this actually presents us an opportunity. I think more than ever, these children are going to be stressed out and maybe not even being able to identify what's going on for them. And so even though this is uncomfortable for me to not be connected to you, it may be all you have with the kids, or you might just get them. I have a feeling you're going to have about 1 week if you're doing in-person classes, and then that's going to be about the end of that. I'm going to hope for more than that, though, but who knows what's going to happen. And actually, can you just give a thumbs up if you think you're going to have any in-person time with kids? And then I can't see everybody, Kathleen, so if you can tell me about how many people.
Sure. Oh yeah, we're getting thumbs up.
Okay, so you will have some in-person time, good. And then some computer time? Is that kind of a mixture? Is that what we're thinking? Okay. All right. It's gonna be an interesting year, isn't it? So it calls upon us, and it can give really amazing tools to these kids. It calls upon us to be present and to be aware and to know ourselves and to watch what's happening, so that we are not along for the ride, but instead we're in the driver's seat. It's insane. We can't make plans even 2 days in advance. I'm imagining that you have some anxiety, as well as I do, about life and everything that it entails. And what yoga can do for us is give us roots into the earth, keep us centered in our bodies and our own sense of truth, if you will, It's really difficult to figure out what is truth these days. There are lots of ideas. There's research about a disease that we don't know very much about, and then everybody's arguing and hating each other about it. So it's really overwhelming, and I just want to be a little hermit and go away from all of it. However, that's not what is asked of us. Especially these children need us right now, and they need their teachers. A teacher is such an important role. A parent is a parent, and a teacher is a teacher. In my opinion, I think that the teacher is so beautiful. Homeschooling can also be beautiful, but I love the role of teacher. We have an opportunity to be so much more for these kids this year. I think that what is missing, as Kathleen had said, was that what's missing is connection. And again, I don't feel very connected to you. I know that you're there, and it's difficult because I can only have my visual sense and a little bit of auditory, but my energy body is not able to tune into you. Without that, we have very little sense of relationship and connection. And it feels impossible, and I'm really hoping that you do get to see your kids, but we can be proactive about it and say, how can we connect to these kids through a screen? Or if you only get to see them for a little bit of time, or they're separated from each other and have masks on and you have a mask on, how can we be creative and still create connection? Now, fortunately, yoga is about connection. Yoga is about everything that you say, you do, and you feel are in alignment. And it's a quote about happiness, but it really lands for me about yoga. So we want everything to be connected within our own beings. We need to be connected to our earth because there's so much information from the earth and the natural world around us. And we need connection with other human beings. Without that, we do not thrive. So I think that we need to be even more on top of it this year, and that can actually be a huge component of your curriculum. I wish I could go on for hours and hours and hours about this stuff, but I really will only be offering a little bit of the physical movements, a little bit of the breathing, and a little bit of the mindfulness component. But this is my major takeaway message for you, is how can we be the art of yoga. Yoga is actually a deep philosophy. It is a path of being, a path towards enlightenment is one way to look at it, but a path towards knowing oneself that happened to be growing up around the same time in a country in India that Hinduism was everywhere. So yoga is not a religion. I'll just mention that from the very beginning for the people who ask. And also, you could not even call it yoga. You could just say stretching, breathing, and mindfulness is a very common term. If you have any families who don't like that, especially since you're bringing it into their home on a screen, you might really run into that. So yoga is a path towards enlightenment is one thing they call it. And to move is one way to be aware of your whole body, because you're stretching out all the body and you can feel and be in your energy body. And the breath work is huge for that as well. And yeah, I think I'm just going to dive into some of it. And I'll come back to this larger concept as well. But more so than ever, I'm really glad that you're here. So I'm just going to start with a few of the breathing components that we do. And I'll start for you, and I'll start, which would also be for the older kids out there. Those of you teaching middle school and high school, you can teach this to them. And then you can do this prior to going into a classroom. So find a comfortable seat. Put away any distractions. If your phone is beeping at you, turn it off. Sorry you can't make your children go away if they're knocking on the door. That's what mine likes to do. That's why I came here. This is nice. I'm on the ocean instead of with my children. All right. So find a comfortable space. And I'm going to ask you to tune in. This is called centering. A really great way to start every class. The mindfulness and the breathing work can be can provide ritual and a container around everything else you do in this chaotic time. So this I call centering. We in the yoga community call centering. And it means just that. It means that you're going to center, you're going to come back into your own mind. A lot of times we spend a lot of time in our head, which is not the center of our being. Or we're spending a lot of time in the future worrying, thinking about what is to be done, or in the past worrying about what has been done, worrying about what we said to who, having our our regrets, thinking about things that have happened, we're very rarely right here in this present flow of time called the present. And it really is a flow of time rather than one moment. And we're very rarely in our own body. And I don't know if that really lands for you, but we are often spending time outside of our bodies, thinking, computers, etc. This kind of connection pulls a person outside of their body. It pulls me into my brain, and it's just a visual sense, and I no longer am paying attention to my body. So a centering centers us back into our own beings, into our own bodies. And as you start to do that, you may close your eyes. You might leave them open. And then we just start to notice the breath. Notice if it's shallow. Notice if you can't feel your breath. Notice all the distractions and all the thoughts that come in as you try to do this. And then slowly and slowly start to expand your breath. So that inhale is going to get just a little bit bigger. You're going to pull in just a little bit more air. You're not pushing it. You're just gently inviting a little more space. And on the exhales, you're going to slow it down and try to get to the bottom of that exhale, letting out all of the air. So little by little, a little more breath in and a little bit more breath out. Slowing it down. Try to let your belly relax so that it's as if your belly could expand like a balloon as you breathe in. As you breathe in, imagine filling your whole body with air, as if that air could go into your belly, down your legs, to your toes, to your fingertips, through your brain. It might wash around your body as well. On the exhales, focus on relaxing your body. So on your inhales, you're filling yourself up. On the exhales, we're relaxing and letting go. Inhale, filling up, and find your own rhythm here, by the way. On those inhales, you're filling up. On those exhales, you're relaxing and coming back into your own body. A couple more like that, noticing all the thoughts. Simply saying hi to those little thoughts when they come in, and then let them float on by. And then let your eyes open. Keep yourself tuned into your own body. See if you can stay centered and start to notice the space around you too, as if you had a sixth sense, and which was your energetic body, and you could feel the space around you. And then you can feel as best as you can me in this room, and I can feel and tune in and sense you in your room. Attempting to connect through the heart space, through the body, rather than just through the brain. And kids are much, much better at this than adults because they haven't been trained out of it. They're very energetically intuitive. Give them credit, they'll come up with amazing things. And then you can tune back into our space together. Try to maintain your inner awareness throughout our class though. I'm going to dive, so that is a really simple exercise. Please make anything be your own as you teach children. They tune, especially those teenagers, they like authenticity, and they will tell you in all of their ways when they sense that you are not saying what is true for you. So try to be true to yourself. And it's not going to be like, oh, I'm so mad my husband and I had this awful fight last night. It was about money, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to do that. You can just say, I feel so irritated today. I'm feeling yucky and tight today, or whatever it might be, because they know it. So you can be tuned in and sensitive. And when you show up on the screen in this way, when you're centered and when you're really present with them, they will notice that. Or when, hopefully when you're showing up in person with them, you can imagine the energetic space around you and all of those children as you get to spend time with them. So we're going to do a little breathing and mindfulness activities for children. A lot of it is silly, and then I'll tell you how you can shift it for the adult version of it. If you get the honor of being with children in person this year, I highly recommend, if it's possible, to go outside Be 6 feet apart if that's okay with your school district, and take off those masks. The masks and the worry about our germs getting on people and the trying to keep distance from people, I think is making us very tight and making our breath even more shallow. So yoga is actually the right medicine for what's happening right now. So if possible, try to get them outside and distanced, masks off, so that they can breathe together. This kind of breathing actually wouldn't be that great of a thing to do in a small cramped space together because we're going to be making lots of out breath, and that would be a really good way to spread lots of germs. So outside, if you have to, leave the masks on. I don't know what you guys will be doing. Nobody really knows, but lots of options. So one of my favorites is the peace breath. We did that at the beginning. We'll do it one more time. You can have a dinger or you don't need one. A peace breath in through the nose. Exhale, peace. One more time with that in through the nose, filling yourself up. Peace. Peace breath. Older kids, you could have them sigh. Or with adults, I'll have everybody sigh. Making some noise is very calming to the nervous system. And right around 4th, 5th grade, they're going to hear you say piss, and they're going to think that's hilarious. Just be prepared. Ha ha, you heard piss. That's not what we're saying. Moving on. Take 3 is one of my favorites. Very simple, very quick. When the classroom has sort of lost it, it's really easy to use these breaths as a way to bring them back in. Take 3, you're going to use your hand up like this, and please try them with me. We'll do them a few times each. With your hand up like this, we'll breathe in as each finger goes up. So in through the nose, you'll notice that a lot. 3 times up, and then breathing out through the mouth. And you will have this paper in your Drive folder, by the way, with all of this listed in there. So feel free, of course, to take notes if that's how you do things, but just so you know that you have this in your folder. Let's try that again. Breathing in 3 times. And then you can even do 5. Let's try 5. Definitely a great tool for older kids too. Little kids, you can do the 3. Very little kids, preschoolers, just have them put their hand out. Otherwise, they'll spend their whole time going like this. So you just have them go. Take 3, leave 5 is very grounding. So you can use your thighs or the table as the base. You're going to put your hands out in front of you. We're going to breathe in 3, just like we did, but with our hands flat. And breathe out 5, hitting your legs or the table. On that last one. Let's try it all mixed together, all together now. And then I invite you to get creative. You'll notice that a lot of our breaths have a longer exhale, calming to everybody, and we make some noise. And if you blow out through your mouth or breathe out through your mouth, that's also very calming. Okay, so you'll notice a theme in these. And then reach for the sun is very energizing. And what's interesting, these energizing breaths actually focus the energy as opposed to making everybody more chaotic. So when there is chaos, use these focusing breaths. Reach for the sun. You imagine there's a sunshine above you, and again, don't do that necessarily with the older kids, but you reach up to the sky. I'll scooch back so you can see me. Reach, 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 and you grab onto a piece of that sun in your hand. I'm kind of going like this. And then say, ha, as you place it right here in your 3rd chakra. This is our very fiery part of our body. We have the stomach, the gallbladder, the pancreas, making our digestive juices. So you want to pat that if it feels good. Only do what feels good, please. And we will be putting that energy into our 3rd chakra. So we're going to go back and forth. So breathing in through the nose, reaching to the sky. Ha! And it's a very strong ha. Other side. Ha! 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 Last one. Ha! Very good. Reach for the sun. Little kids love that. And actually that is just taken from yoga for adults, in which you're doing, oh gosh, it's been so long. I think it's Bastrika, where you're pulling in. So a little different, but it's all an adult practice. So don't let those don't let those middle schoolers and high schoolers roll their eyes too much at you. And then calming, or very calming, children love this to calm, but it's also a cooling breath. So if it's hot out or there's a lot of anger, you can physically cool your body down by doing these cooling breaths. So you will breathe in through your mouth for this one, either in through the teeth so that your tongue gets cold air on it, out through your nose. Or some of you may be able to curl your tongue and breathe in through your tongue like a straw. Genetically, some of you cannot curl your tongue, so don't feel bad. So find one of those in through the tongue or the teeth. Breathing out through the nose. One more time. One added component to that, press that cold tongue then against the roof of the mouth on that exhale. So breathing in through the tongue or the teeth a couple more times, and then press the cold tongue against the roof of the mouth as you breathe out through the nose. In through the tongue or the teeth. Out through the nose, press that tongue against the roof of the mouth. Imagine it going into your brain, that chilliness. In through the tongue or the teeth. Out through the nose, press that cold against the roof of the mouth and into the brain, letting it cool the brain. Last time. Very nice. And on this sheet, you will see what some of those are called in the yoga world. That one's called Shitali or Sitkari. And the last one we'll do sitting is called nostril breathing, or in the yoga world, Nadi Shodhana. For adults and older kids, what we want to do is go back and forth. You can also call it switch breath. So we're going to breathe in through one nostril, out through the other, in through that same one, out through the other. So we're switching at the top of the breath, in through one side, out through the other, in through that same side, out through the other. It looks a little bit like this. You can use your thumb and your ring finger on your right hand, or just whatever you want to do. So if you put out your right finger, right hand, thumb, ring finger, these two are tucked in. It's a mudra. You're going to close the right nostril. Breathe in through the left nostril. Switch, breathe out through the right. In through the right. Out through the left. Going at your own pace. Make sure you don't feel like you don't have enough air. In through the left. Through the right. In through the right. Out through the left. And release it. Good for concentration too, eh? Now you can also imagine and feel energy coming up the left side as you breathe in through the left side, going through the brain and out through the right side, pulling in earth energy from the right side, across and out the left side. For younger children, we just want them to learn how to breathe through their noses. They often like to breathe through their mouths after they get congested for an entire school year. So we just invite them, and maybe even throughout the day, younger kids won't mind as much. I don't think you're going to be able to tell high schoolers to breathe through their noses throughout the day. They're going to get mad at you for telling you that. But we want to breathe in and out through the nose. So you can just tell them to do nostril breathing, where we sit and we breathe in and out through the nose. Nice and slow, full breaths. One more of those. Or more simply, you can close one nostril, breathing in and out through just one side for a little while. And then close the other nostril, breathe in and out through one side for a while. Both sides have different energies to them. That's why we switch. It kind of balances the two sides of us. But you can also just increase the one side. The left side is what we often call the moon energy, and the right side is the sun energy. So that's where that one comes from. All right. See where we are now. So I think I'm going to jump around just a little bit so we can stay sitting for a little bit longer. I'm going to move to how yoga can be done for you. No, I'm going to come back to that, sorry. So yoga for the classroom, again, is going to be on this sheet here. You'll see that, yoga for the classroom and yoga for the curriculum. Something that you can do that's, again, that larger background of yoga. As you can see with those breaths, you can use them throughout your day within what you do. More than ever, I really invite you to use this as a backdrop to what you do, in addition to what you do. I can't imagine you have the bandwidth to create a whole yoga curriculum on top of everything that you're doing right now and having to shift up. So I'm inviting you to learn how to maintain your own health, and then invite the children to find to remind them that they have a body and they have a breath and they have an emotional and energetic side of them too. So, ways that you can do this, if you're in the classroom or on the screen, I invite you to validate and see each child for who they are. Now, this is one of the main components of yoga that I've translated into my preschool, is the way that I show up with these kids. So it's so easy. We've been trained to say things like, oh, you left your show and tell at home? Well, it's okay, don't cry about it. Let's get over it and move forward, right? We always are wanting to push them out of what they're actually experiencing. It's common, it's everywhere. Oh, how could you be cold? It's really warm in here. Just constantly we're negating another person's experience by saying these little things. So I invite you to experiment with validating to your spouse, to your kids, to the students in your classroom. So, oh, I hear you, you're cold right now. Or are you sad, especially with young children who can't find those words? Are you sad that you left your show and tell at home? Oh, I see you're so frustrated about that. Kind of a mixture of sad and anger that you're experiencing right now. That's rough. Coming to it with a little bit of silence and stillness and ability to be with that person's discomfort can make it, such a game changer for working with a group of children. You're not going to spend all your time in arguments as much. The book, I don't know if I put a picture of these books on, but How to Talk So Kids Can Listen and Listen So Kids Can Talk. It's a classic. Goes through all of that information, and it's beautiful and simple, and I would definitely call that yoga at its best. So I invite you to create that space for the kids in which they can actually be and experience what they're experiencing and be who they are. And then there's a lot of information I love to go in usually on punishment and reward systems. I'm just going to put a tiny little seed out there. When we have systems, like classroom management system, and this is a huge topic, and I know that a lot of classrooms operate in this way, but that involve reward systems and punishment systems, even the find the positive, that kind of stuff. It's often a technique that is being done and takes us out of relationship with the child. I really believe that children are not trying to be the buggers that they sometimes come across to be, and that upon really seeing them and saying, hi, I see you, what's going on? I saw that you did that. Wow, where did that come from? Rather than, don't hit, you're so bad, I'm going to move you down on my little chart thing. There's always a reason behind it. It doesn't make a lot of sense to our logical brains, but there is a reason. There is kind of like a lead up to it. So another way to create a place of relationship with children is to look into other ways of classroom management and discipline. I just want to throw that out there. Alfie Kohn, A-L-F-I-E. Isn't he amazing? It's very out there, but I absolutely love it. Everything he says feels so true. And his last name is K-O-H-N. He has many books, a lot about classroom teaching and a lot about Beyond Punishment and Rewards, I believe, is one of his books. So just a little seed out there for creating a classroom space that feels really good, which will get you very far with children. The last thing I'll say here, you'll see this very low-tech, adorable little drawings that I made for my classroom, and I have yet to make them anything fancier than this, and they're just some ideas. This is for very little kids. I do this with 3-year-olds, and 4-year-olds and up can handle this one, so I'm going to focus on this one. This is a feeling chart. I'll see if you can see it. There we go. It is a very simple way to talk about feelings, and I'm sure a lot of you have other ways that you talk about feelings. This is the work of Clinton Callahan that I have translated a little bit down into young children. Clinton, and I believe this is on my resource page. That's where it is. Resource page in the Drive folder. Clinton Callahan, and there's all this work called possibility management. I bring it up because to me it is the essence of yoga, and it's something I've found great success with. This is a really simple, easy check-in, and I'll have you do it right now. The feeling chart breaks feelings down into the 4 actual feeling sensations. So when we say something like I'm confused, I'm depressed, I'm jealous, they are actually a mixture of these 4 feelings. So for example, jealousy, there's fear that somebody saw you, or no, sorry, embarrassed, that's my favorite. Embarrassed, there's fear that somebody saw what you did and is gonna hate you now. There's sadness that it happened, and there's anger that it happened and people were there watching you. Really, I think it's a lot of anger and fear with a little bit of sadness mixed in. So every feeling can be broken down into these. The reason I love this for yoga is this because it's bringing it out of the mental game about talking about feelings and bringing it into the actual feeling body where we're feeling what is happening. That is when feelings can move, is when you actually focus on one of the 4 feelings at a time and allow it to move its way through you. So we are looking at joy, and there's a thermometer from 0 to 100%. Fear, 0 to 100%. Sadness, 0 to 100%. And anger, 0 to 100%. You can have 0 of all of them. You could have 50 of all of them. You could have 100 of all of them. And it's a really nice check-in. Now, your feeling body and your heart may already know how you feel. There's really not much more we have to talk about. And it looks like this. So I feel 70% joy. And you could even do a quick little because, but it's not necessary because I love teaching. I feel about 90% fear. Actually, it's down a little bit. That was my mind saying that. It's down a little bit now that I'm connecting with you guys some. About 50% fear, because fear is just part of this new thing that we're doing. But I'm okay with that. I'm aware of it now. Sadness, I feel 50% sadness because this is how we're having to connect right now. And I guess 70% anger is what my heart told me. That's pretty high today. I feel pretty angry about a lot of things. And then I would like you to look at it and type in, and we don't need to read any of them, or like, are they seeing what everybody types too?
Yeah, they can
okay,
see each
cool.
other's stuff.
So
I
yeah,
can
type
throw
in.
you 1 or 2 if they
Okay,
have
cool.
something.
Yeah, so type in how much joy, fear, anger, and sadness you have. What percentage, all the way up to 100. Don't think too much about it. Just let it be coming from your own body, your own heart.
Joy, 70. 50, anger.
It might be more or less than you realize.
Oh, fear, 50. Sadness, 80. Sorry, Scarlett.
You know what's so interesting here? I hope you don't mind me using, I meant using that as an example, Kathleen, is, well, it's nice to be said like, oh, I hear you and I feel you, but there's so many things that we often say that are like, oh, we want that feeling to go away. And I love that because we have things that we say to each other. I hear you, I hear these feelings. And then when we say like, oh, that's too bad, or what are you angry about? Which is not what you were doing at all, Kathleen. But like when we say these things, then we, oh, and actually, Kathleen, they're not hearing you, are they? I'm hearing you in the background.
There's a lot of joy too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And when we can just truly see what a person is feeling and not saying like, oh, well, what are you so scared of? There's nothing to be scared of right now. Why are you angry? Even our most well-meaning things that we're saying are shutting people down from actually experiencing and telling us their feelings. So my favorite response is thank you for sharing. Or do you want to tell me any more about that? Or wow, that sounds like a lot. Okay.
Just nice to have a place to talk about.
Yes. We never really talk about feelings. And I think kids are going to want something like that. They feel it whether we talk about it or not.
I'm going to turn on somebody's microphone and let them talk so I'm not confronted.
Okay, that sounds good.
Andrea, would you unmute yourself and talk? Ask Andrea to do that.
Andrea, would you?
Yes.
I think we're trying to change the screen there.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Andrea. And actually, that's a good time. Does anybody have any questions? I don't know if it'd be best to raise their hand or how that works, Kathleen. If you want to type in any questions.
Or they can just unmute.
Or unmute yourself and ask. I know it's a lot of subjects, but I'm hoping to just give you a little sense of what it is I'm talking about. Anybody out there? Questions?
Hey, Jess, I have a question.
Hi.
How are you? Scarlett. Again, do you have any suggestions if I have a room of high schoolers, how to start out by saying something like, hi, my name is Scarlett, and I pledge my confidentiality to this group? I mean, have you done anything like that? Do you have any ideas or thoughts? Do you know what I'm getting at?
I work with little kids who don't remember anything past the present moment. So yes, very good point. Yeah, and if anybody else has a suggestion, one thing I would say though is that I don't think it would be a good idea or appropriate, especially in just a class that you don't see very frequently, that you haven't set up like weeks and weeks of like container, to go into the why of what you're feeling. So I would maybe just send that around, because send the feeling chart around and a person could explain, say, I feel 80% anger, and I don't think that the kids in the hall are going to be like, haha, that guy is angry. Like there's nothing to take from there. You know, like you can't, I don't know, you'd be surprised what they can make fun of each other about. But I would imagine that just keeping it simple to how much feeling you're having, and of course letting them skip if they want to, maybe would be better. And then if you have a class that you see frequently and you feel like they can handle it, I would set up the container, meaning, hey guys, how would it feel? And I would do it something like this, like, how would it feel if we tried to be a little more real in this class and create some relationship and talk about stuff that goes beyond what we're normally talking about? Does anybody here have any interest in that? So like really setting it up, because it's very outside of the realm of what we're used to, and I think that they're craving it. I really, really do. So if you can kind of slowly wake your way into it, especially if you're doing this specifically, I think it would just be so beautiful, and the kids would learn how to hold confidence and have some sort of, and again, I think that you build trust slowly. The words themselves can have some benefit, like signing a contract, but most contracts don't really hold up in court, just like they can say something and mean something else entirely. So if you can get them on board and really sell them on this first, before you really create the space for somebody to open up, somebody who hasn't had a chance to open up and then suddenly opens up in the wrong container and there's not time for it, or if there's a lot of trauma, you never know where there's trauma, there's PTSD, and you are not trained to work with it, nor do you have the space to work with it. You don't want to be like, oh, that's weird, I can't handle that, why don't you go off to the guidance person now? That wouldn't feel very good either. So in terms of actually going into the detail with the older kids, make sure that you slowly work your way into that. And actually, maybe I'll just go right into that trauma PTSD thing in a little more detail. I would never push and never force. Something as simple as closing one's eyes can be incredibly overwhelming if a person has some major trauma background. I am not trained in trauma but I've taken a few courses and I'm aware of some of the basic rules of it. If you work with families that have a lot of trauma, there's just a lot out there right now. I highly recommend some more training, especially with yoga and trauma. There's a ton of it out there, and now you can do anything online these days. So I would not force. So if a child says, I don't want to close my eyes, there's probably a reason. If they start fidgeting when you ask them to be still, there's definitely a reason. It's very uncomfortable to be still and feel what's going on inside. You might go a little closer and say, it's okay, I got you. Well, I can't be close to anybody. I don't know. This is ridiculous. How are we going to connect to these poor kids? But you could, by just saying, I see that, I see you, just do as much as you'd like. you're in control of how much you go in and notice. And if they're completely disruptive, which they often will do when they feel very uncomfortable, you know, just be aware of where it's coming from, and then use all of your classroom tools that you have there. So I wouldn't point it out, be like, oh, are you uncomfortable because you have a trauma in your past and you don't want to go in and feel? Like, I wouldn't necessarily do that. That's a little overwhelming if you don't have relationship and container. But you could even just, if you have like a couple kids starting to act up, say, oh, I think it's so hard to feel what it feels like inside. Sometimes it's really uncomfortable once we sit in stillness and start breathing. Let's go a little slower. So let's instead do a couple breaths today. Tomorrow we'll try something else. You know, if you're starting to notice them, I would back off. Give them a lot of space. I do find with trauma, the kids who've come to me who have a lot of trauma in their background are some of the most willing and most hungry for these tools that I offer, because I think that they've sort of had something broken open in them that wasn't supposed to be broken open yet, and that actually gave them access to deeper parts of who they are. And they are so hungry for a way or an idea or an invitation that allows them to change how they feel, and to be aware of how they feel, and to be okay with how they feel. I think that kids feel, yeah, they're very hungry for that. So a huge opportunity. Tread lightly, get more training. Definitely. It's a big, big subject.
Jordan has said that she's noticed that too. She's a kindergarten teacher.
Oh, good. Yeah. Whew. And then these poor kids, I mean, even if it's not trauma with a big T, I'm noticing it already with my 3.5-year-old, where she's constantly making some weird noise in the background when she feels uncomfortable. And what I do with my daughter who's not had any trauma is I tune right into her and I say, oh, are you feeling kind of funky right now? Rather than letting that get out of hand. Like, oh, stop it. Why are you doing that? Like, I just tune right into her and say, whoa, I see something going on. So that is a lot of the reason why kids get kind of twitchy. And it, like, I mean, I had a baby 6 months ago. That's her biggest trauma. And I definitely treat it as the big event that it is for her. But, like, we're talking about very different things when we're talking about trauma, of course. So even the healthiest of kids and the healthiest of families it's going to be hard for them to feel. A lot of, especially little kids, and I actually think that this grows with us, we feel so bad about ourselves. We feel so yucky that we don't want to go in there and feel it. So just to put that out there is why kids are resistant to this. And then you have to come to another training as I teach you how to go through that. But just, I think it's important to realize why. And they're not trying to be buggers. They just have a lot going on. And they'll appreciate that compassion and that empathy. One of my favorite things to do with children, again, to create that really safe space, is to say, whew, I don't know what to do with this right now, but I do see it. Or I saw what you said to him, and I saw his face become really sad. And my heart hurt a little bit hearing you say that. And I don't really know what we should do about it, but I really don't like seeing that here in my classroom. So just that honest, like, I'm here in the moment with you conversation, as opposed to, like, oh, I'm losing control of my class. Like, you can't do that. You go sit over there, like, you know, just moving on. And it's really hard, of course, with a classroom full of kids. But if you can do little bits at a time and those children feel seen by you, then you have a really sweet space with these kids. And that's all yoga, if you can believe it. All right, let's get moving. So find a spot for yourself where you can move, get a drink of water if you need a drink of water. I'm gonna turn my camera like this.
Somebody's got plumbers that just came in, so she turned off her camera so she didn't be distracted.
I have the worst timing.
I love it.
Right. I have some people. So are you seeing everybody, Kathleen?
I am.
Okay, so good. You can see people are somewhat ready. I only see
a lot
4
of people have their cameras off.
All right.
But yep, they're working.
Okay, sounds good. So before you start your day with children, it can be so healthy to move before and after, and then doing some of it with the kids can help you stay healthy, because you have an impossible job as it is as an educator in this day and age, and now there's a pandemic on top of it, and we don't need you dropping like flies. You are so important right now. We need you, and so you have got to stay healthy and grounded and take care of yourself. So some of that is notice what makes you feel super relaxed, like sitting on the couch and binging TV at the end of a day, even taking a hot bath, going for a walk. Like, it doesn't have to be super healthy, but find that thing that allows you to just shut down. And then you can also have some rules for yourself. I don't know about you, but after about 8 o'clock, I cannot do work. I cannot be on the computer stressing out, answering emails. I cannot go to sleep after that. Some people find that if they don't do any screen time right before bed, they sleep better. Do your research, come up with systems for yourself. Be a warrior and be courageous to take care of your health, because people need you right now. Now, one way to do that would be through some movement. One of the simplest things you can do for yourself and for older kids would be to just move your body. And that is the simplest way that I can explain yoga, is moving your body, because we want to become aware of our body. When we move, we're stretching. And when we stretch, we're moving along all the fascia, so the energetic body, which moves through the fascia, we believe, can move. And then we're also stretching out the lymphatic tissues. Every little bit of movement gives the lymphatic system the ability to move. And you actually need movement to get the lymph moving. The lymph is what actually brings around all of the T cells and the immune system in your body. Highly important. So stretching, becoming stronger. We actually feel more confident when we're strong. And then all that breath work is so healing to our body as well. So a couple things you can do is simply move. So if you forget all the poses, just move your body. You want to move your arms and your shoulders, and you probably feel very silly like I do. And then hopefully that brings a smile to your face and you just can giggle a little bit. So imagine, oh look, I'm on the ocean, so I can imagine that I'm surfing, right? I can just be like moving my body. And then if you have a class of older kids, they can laugh at you, and that is really good. Laughter is good. Little kids love to just move. They'll be good at this. And then we'll take it into something a little different. So now I'd like you to wiggle. So you're going to be making your movements a little faster. And I want you to make noise. This is called wiggle, wiggle, freeze. So make some noise. We can't hear you, so it's okay. Little kids love this. And then I want you to freeze, so with all that movement, then we find stillness. Any shape you want with your body. You can make that shape, you can make that shape, you can make this shape, you can make something else up. And be still and take a breath. And then we're going to do that again, so you're going to wiggle, 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 and make some noise. It's good, it releases all that pent-up energy. And freeze. And take a breath. And then one of the simplest stretches that you can do, it can take you 1 minute. You can do it throughout the day. You can do it before. You can do it after. You can do it with kids. Is to breathe in, reach up, and stretch, stretch, stretch. And we're focused on our inhale here and all sorts of up energy. And then on your exhale, we focus on down energy and letting your breath out. And you fold in half. You stay there. I'm going to stand up so I can talk to you. Let your knees bend as much as they need to, and try to let your back hang, let your head hang. Relax the muscles in your neck and your jaw. And then inhale, carefully and slowly and gently. Make sure it doesn't hurt. Come back up to standing, and we again reach up. Now go back and forth at your own pace. There's an inhale reaching up and an exhale folding forward. I'll show you here if you wanted to be watching as well. Stay as long as you'd like in the up. Stay as long as you'd like in the down. If it hurts, do not do it. Let your knees bend while you hang. If your head is pounding when you hang, do not do it. And then come back to center, to standing. Connect with your feet down into the earth, bringing your center back into your center. And spread your feet wide. And spread your arms wide, a star shape. From here, we can stretch the side body really well by putting one hand on the hip, really strong here. We're trying to pull our energy up. Our muscles are coming up. And a hand on the hip and reach up and over, not collapsing, up and over, as if on top of that shelf right there is a Snickers bar and you really want it. And you can almost reach it and you're stretching the side body. Very good for the immune system. Inhale up and exhale to the other side. Shoulders relaxed, strong in the belly, strong in the legs. Breathe here. Inhale up. And exhale to the side. And inhale up. And exhale to the side. Nice. And inhale up. And then you can bend your knees. Put your hands on your knees and kind of surf a little side to side. Very nice. And then if it feels good, you can kind of hang on your arms like that and do a very gentle twist. Make sure it feels good. Go slowly. Do not hurt yourself. And then inhale back to that star. Put one foot out to the side now and bend that knee. The knee is aligned over the ankle. And please take your own yoga classes so that you can learn proper and safe alignment. I'm just giving you a couple ideas today. Strong in the core, hips are strong, belly's strong, legs are strong. Arms reach out and avoid doing this. Relax those shoulders, open that heart. Look out over your fingertips and breathe and feel like the strong warrior that you are. One more breath here. Inhale back to center and switch. Other foot pointing out. Find your stability. Connect your feet into the earth. Strong in the core. Steadiness. Reach out with your fingertips. Active all the way through your fingertips. Notice the energy of this versus that. Look out over those fingertips. Shoulders relaxed, heart open, and breathe. And then inhale back to center. Turn your toes in towards each other. Can you see me? There. And fold forward. And inhale your way back up to standing. Keep the legs apart for one more second. Lengthen in all directions. Breathe in. Then breathe out, cactus pose. Breathe in, star. Breathe out, cactus. Breathe in, star. Breathe out, cactus. And then you can come back to standing. Last thing we're going to do is tighten all those muscles. So you're tightening your fists, your legs, your arms, your belly. Everything's tight, tight, tight. Breathe in. And release with a sigh. And shake it out a little bit. And again, tighten everything up. Tighten that face, that belly, those toes. Breathe in. And release with a sigh. Awesome. So who feels like they haven't moved in way too long? You can do thumbs up for yes. Oh, that's okay. Now, the thing about yoga is that it's not about making the shape. It's actually about moving in that direction until you feel a stretch. It's about finding the strength and letting it build as opposed to wanting to already be there. So yoga is a path, not a destination. So when we stretch our arms up to the sky, my arms might go here because I finally got my yoga practice back on board after having a baby. But before that happened, my arms might have just gone right there and I would have felt a really good stretch. And so I would have stayed there and breathed with it. But now my body's able to move a little bit more and it feels really good. All right, so once again, since I can't teach you all of yoga, and we're about to go into the yoga for kids section, Please take your own classes and study yoga more if you really want to be sharing it with kids. But if all you take away from this is the idea that movement is good, we want to be circling our joints and stretching our body and making muscles stronger. And jumping is really good for the immune system, by the way, too. If you can take away the idea of movement, that's good. And then we move in a direction to feel a stretch. It's not about getting into the shape itself. So those are my little takeaways for yoga. And let's move into yoga for kids. So that's something you could do, or you could do with older kids, is that set of stretches that we just did. Now, I'd say the best thing to do with a classroom of kids is to have little movement breaks throughout the day. So after you come in and you get started, hopefully you do like some kind of breathing thing or mindfulness thing, maybe as a way to set the container as you start your day. But then after you've been sitting for a while, can you get your body moving? So it can be as simple as jumping jacks for like a minute or 30 seconds, because jumping actually stimulates the immune system and makes our bones stronger. It's very good for us. Or it could be like some of these cross body things that you might have seen before. So elbow to knee, you can give that a try and see how that works. Whenever we cross the body like this, cross the midline, you're actually activating the two sides of the hemispheres, the two hemispheres in your brain to communicate better, making learning function better. By getting the blood flowing, learning is going to be easier for these kids. Lots of benefits to simply moving. Little kids just love jumping. So you could tell them to jump like a frog, for example. You don't need to do this. You could just see if one of your kids can do this for you to demonstrate. If your body doesn't like it, if your body likes it, go ahead and give it a try to be a frog. And then we would jump to the sky. One really cute, clever way to do that is you point to the sky for little kids and you say, "Do you see that little fly up there?" "Yeah." Say, "I'm going to get that fly." And everybody says, "I'm going to get that fly." 1, 2, 3, and we jump and get that fly. And then you do it with the other side. So you're getting a stretch, you're getting some hip opening, and then they're jumping. So that's one way to take the pose of squat and turn it into a kid's version. So I highly recommend just getting them out of their seats and doing a few little movements. In the same way, I recommend getting outside to do your yoga outside if you can. Let's see, what else do we do? So a couple other simple, cute little yoga poses for the younger ages is you can add motions to them like we just did with that frog, or like this is warrior 1. Let's see, I'll turn sideways so you can see me. So that front knee bent, hips are facing forward. You can try warrior 1. And the arms go up strong. And then you say, we're going to say, "I am strong" 3 times. I am strong. I am strong. I am strong. You could say powerful. You could say amazing. So, what are they called? Affirmations there. And tree is a cute little pose for kids. So you're going to ground one foot into the earth, tight, strong muscles pulling up, and then your foot is going to come either to the calf or to the inner thigh. And you're going to probably need to tap the ground to find balance. Little kids are going to say, "I can't do it." But if you just have them tap the ground and say, "Oh, we are doing it. We're just touching the ground," to help us find our steadiness. And then little by little, we find our balance. And you can even demonstrate how your balance is bad so that they feel like we're all still learning. There. 3. Now, one of my favorite games to do with tree pose, because kids, young children, they're all going to go like this. "I can't do it. It's impossible. I don't want to do it. I'm bad at this." That's what they're going to do. I'd say like 95% of them. One of the best ways to activate their ability to do it, because they can, is to play a game called Tree and Wind, which I love to play in person. You can't really do it on a computer, but if you have time in person with your kids, have half of your kids be trees. So they're going to stand in a tree pose. And then half of your kids are going to be the wind. So you're going to spread everybody out. I don't know, you have to figure out masks and distancing and whether you're inside or outside or whatever. But you spread everybody out, you have them in their trees, and then you have the wind go by. And so if there's a tree standing here, I'm going to go whoosh. And maybe don't do whoosh because that's going to be spitting on everybody, right? But you could say, I am the wind, or sing a song. I don't know. You have to be creative these days, right? But the way I used to do it, we'd say whoosh, and you walk around the person. You still give them their bubble, or even a 6-foot bubble would still be okay for this game. And the people in tree are supposed to not watch the wind. The people in tree are supposed to find something to look at on the ground in front of them, or the tree, or the wall in front of them, and stay focused and keeping one center, keeping our awareness inward. Well, the wind tries to knock them down. And that's a great analogy to life, too. So if you get kids in person, try the tree and wind game, and it's written on here for you. A couple other cute little poses. Let's see if you can see me. I'm going to sit down. Here's a butterfly pose where you bring the soles of your feet together. And again, my knees need to go down to here to get a stretch. You might find a stretch with your knees up here. So it's not about whether you can do it or cannot do it. Butterfly. You can also have your kids take a butterfly nap. They still see me? Yeah, I think so.
Nope, they can't. Oh, yeah, they can.
Just a little bit? Okay. Butterfly nap. And then we've seen frog. A frog pose, which is squat in yoga. And you can make them jump. A snake pose, please go slowly if you haven't been moving for a long time and if you have any back pain. But a snake pose looks like this. Or you could be down low like this, on your belly with your elbows bent. Snake. And you can have the children breathe in through their noses and say, and downward dog is one of the most commonly known poses. Looks like this. No, I need to go back. There.
And Jess, Lindsay says, with little kids, she always asks, what color's your butterfly and where's it going to fly?
Perfect. I love it. And I really hope that you can take these ideas and use all of your incredible educator creativity. So fun, all the things that you can do. And let's see. The last one, standing up again, would be a bumblebee. So that's those hands going behind your back. Clasp your hands like that. Pull the hands away. Squeezing the shoulder blades together. Breathing in through the nose. And saying bzzz. So you can shake that up. Now, the way to use these all together, again, older kids, it's going to be more like an adult yoga class might look like, where you're not doing silly noises and stuff. And so if you learn yoga, you'll be able to bring that to the older kids. And even just having a little bit of stretching in your class is going to be amazing. For younger kids, if you turn any asana, any yoga pose, into something that moves or makes noise, they'll be pretty excited. And anything can have a rhythm or like a number to it. Like, let's flap our wings 3 times while we're in butterfly. And you can also use the poses as stories. So for a very brief example, you could say, once upon a time, there was a star up in the sky. And it was twinkling away in the sky. Yeah, and then the kids would do this with you. The star was twinkling away in the sky. And it looked down on earth and it said, oh, I wish I could be a flower down on earth. And it went to sleep that night. How do stars sleep? Can you guys be a sleeping star? And it woke up in the morning, and you know what it was? It was a flower down on that earth. And so you could do any kind of flower pose. Sometimes we do sitting like this for a flower pose. It woke up and it was a flower And it said, oh my, what am I doing down here? Oh, I got my wish, I am a flower. But that flower was not happy very long, for along came a giant bee. And that flower tried to run, but it couldn't run because it had roots in the ground. And I'll leave you there. I don't actually have an ending to it, so. But I make up stories as I go. Other people, you'd want to write it down, and there's tons of yoga books that are yoga stories, like yoga for kids that are stories that you could then tell in the classroom. Depends on how you work. And older kids will want to make up stories with you, and they're really good at it. I wouldn't recommend it for the 3- and 4-year-old crowd, though. I'll just give you that little bit of advice. And if you let kids make up their own poses, that is one of the kids' favorite ways to do yoga. They are not so interested in all the things we want to teach them. They want to do their own thing. So if you give them each a turn, and this could work on the screen too, to make up their own pose, and they're going to be so funny. They're going to do things like this, and they're going to be like, I'm a watermelon tree. Like, they're so cute what they come up with. And then everybody else would do the watermelon tree, and you'd say, oh, thank you, Joey. Next. So let them create their own poses. They're so good at it. And then again, if you get them in a classroom, yoga centers is one of my favorite ways to present yoga to kids. So you can have separate areas around the classroom. Some places you can have yoga cards. And I have a picture of these yoga cards on the drive folder. There's a few varieties of them at least. And there could be the mirror game, which I'll go over in a few minutes. I don't think I've done that here yet. The feeling chart could be at one of the centers. You could have a stuffed snake and a stuffed butterfly at each of the centers so that they know to do that yoga pose there. And then a question mark so they can make up their own yoga pose there. So that's a good way to have them do yoga together. And then games. Games are the best. So I showed you the tree and wind game. And if you get the joy of being with a group of kids, I highly recommend tree and wind. And they're all listed on this paper for you. Another good one was that wiggle freeze game that we did at the beginning. And then the mirror game, which I mentioned earlier. You have 2 kids facing each other. They could be 6 feet apart. And so I would be standing here, and I'd have somebody standing there 6 feet apart from me, and one of us would be the leader first. So I would maybe start wiggling side to side like this. I'll show you what I'm doing. I might go like this, and then my partner has to do that too. And I might do a yoga pose, warrior, or I might just be silly and make up funny things. And my partner has to copy everything I'm doing. And then you switch and have the other person be the leader. And so we could do that through a screen as well. So I'm going to be the leader first. Are you guys all ready? We're going to play the mirror game. You are my mirror. I'm the only real person here, and you guys are all just my mirror. Are you ready? Thumbs up if you're ready. Awesome. I see a few. I think most of you turned off your camera. That's fine. Or I don't know.
That way.
Sneaky, huh? And so then I'm going to start moving, and you're going to copy and do what I'm doing. And so on and so forth. So that'd be a fun way to do it through a screen. You can turn any game into a yoga game. So Hokey Pokey is really cute with little kids. You can say it's good for body awareness, like you put your leg in, you put your leg out. And you can also put in a whole yoga pose. So you put your star in, you put your star out, you put your star in, and you shake it all about. You can do that with frog and tree and all the poses. And it would be a pretty easy Google search to just go online and look up yoga poses, yoga animals to use in your classroom. And there's a lot of books about that as well. You could also do Simon Says in a yoga fashion. And lots of others. I'm going to move on from that now, though. Let's see. Oh, and a couple breaths that we had for kids that we can do now while we're standing, and then we'll come back to sitting. So a couple more breaths standing would be jiggle like jello, standing or sitting truly. So you're gonna breathe in, and then you're gonna wiggle your whole body, making that noise that we did at the beginning. Breathing in. And one more time. All right, and a wood chopper's breath. You're gonna send your legs wide, bend your knees, find your strength. Legs are strong, core is strong. And you're gonna take an imaginary axe in your hand, and we're going to chop the wood in front of us. It looks like this, and then I'll have you join me. Ha! So again, it's that ha sound that's coming from right here. Little kids are going to scream. Tell them to lower their pitch because that's more powerful. So everybody try it with me. We'll do it 3 times. So you're just going to go up and down, keeping your chest open. Grab your axe. Breathe in. Ha! Ha! Nice. Very good. And I think we can sit down now. So take a drink of water. Do what you need to do as we readjust. Amazing. Thanks. All right, any questions that have come up for anybody? See anything coming in, Kathleen? And it's fine if not.
No, everybody seems happy, but.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to dive in just a little deeper into the yoga for you, because as I said, you're very important right now, and we got to take care of us. So a couple other things. I find that while I'm teaching, it's an energy drain. It's the work we love, but teaching takes a lot out of us. Now there's some things while I'm teaching that help me a lot. One of those is doing some of these breaths and movements with the kids. And that would include some of the mindfulness or some of the meditation as well. I'll go into that in a few minutes. Having a few moments of silence in the classroom could be incredibly healing for everybody. And you might have to sell it, or I would recommend against like setting it up to be about a reward, or like if you guys can be silent for three minutes, then we'll get this extra thing. It's up to you as to what you do, but that tends to take us back out of our bodies. We want this to be something that we do because we enjoy it. So if we can try to sell it, and I know this is hard, like believe me, these kids can be really rough, but if we can sell it and say, oh, it would feel so good and cozy if we were all just still and silent for a minute. And then like, oh, I hear you don't want to do it. That's okay. Can you just please not distract everybody else for just a minute? So you don't make it forced or anything, but give everybody, including us, a chance for just some stillness and some silence. Or how are some other creative ways to do that? Like, could you be outside and listen to the sounds around you? And then come back together as a group and say, I heard this, I heard this, I heard this. So there's many ways to engage just a little bit of silence. I'll actually go back to that segment for just a second, and then I'll come back to the educator, because this is the best part for us too. In your drive folder, there's a book of mandalas, and they are pictures. I don't have any with me. Intricate pictures that people can color in, and so it's a mindful coloring exercise. Adults do it, mindful coloring, I believe it's called, and young kids love it as well, so that everybody's silent in the classroom, but you're just coloring this design. So that'd be one way to find moments of stillness and silence in your classroom, mandalas, and I have a book of them, like I said, on the drive folder. A walking meditation can be really healing. Outside would be incredible, again, if you can, but if not, you can just go around the classroom. And what it looks like is, it can look just like slow walking. Very slow walking around a circuit, if you will. Or you can say, everybody, let's just focus on the sensation of our feet on the ground. Try to walk without thinking about anything else. See how slowly you can walk. For young children, say, let's walk like a sloth. And that just brings out their inner sloth, and they move really slowly. Candle meditation is when you sit looking at a candle flame for a period of time. I do this with 4-year-olds, but I create a very trusting, safe environment first, and I make sure that I can trust them, and I set it up. But a candle meditation is very soothing. Older kids love this one. So you just find a candle and let the kids either lie down on their bellies to watch it or put it on a table, and you simply observe the flame. It's actually kind of sweet. Flames are pretty cool. And so that brings us back then to yoga for the teacher. So moments like that in your classroom can be incredibly soothing and healing to you. I find as a person and as a teacher, I tend to talk. I tend to talk really fast, and because it's out of this anxiety, and if I can slow down my voice, then I actually become calm as well. So pay attention to yourself in the classroom and just notice how you're feeling, what's triggering it, and how you can make a plan in the future to change that so that you feel good as you teach. And then, let's see, how else? So then I'd also mention before, we were talking about during class, before and after class. It's very energetically draining. I find one of the easiest things is to simply lie down on the ground or lie down on a couch or lie down on a bed doing absolutely nothing else for like 3 minutes. Just lie down, just let your body rest. In yoga, we call this shavasana. So you simply let your body rest. I feel so much better if I do that for even just a few minutes. I often will get everything ready, and then before the kids come in, I'll lie down or even sit for a couple minutes, just in stillness and silence. And then when they come in, I'm very ready for them. So a couple little ideas there. Yeah, and then there are classes, of course, that you can learn to take. There's books to read. There's many ways that you can use yoga to take care of yourself. All right, I am going to step into one more idea, and that is about this pandemic itself. Let me see if I can find my papers. I think I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but we are in such a turbulent, chaotic time right now. And as I was trying to create this workshop, I realized that so much of it just flew out the window because I don't know how to teach and connect to you, which is the way I teach, if I can't see you and feel you in the room. Now, of course, we can rise to every challenge. And then, of course, there are more creative ways that don't involve computer learning that I would love to see happening. Outdoor schooling would just be incredible, for example, some of it. But that's the part where we have to accept and say, okay, here's what it is. I don't necessarily like this, but here I am on a screen with my students, or I don't have all my students, or, just all of these things. There's a certain amount of acceptance. And I would say acceptance is not signing a 30-year mortgage with something. It's just saying, oh, here we are in this moment. Let's see what we can do with it. So everything flew out the window. And I imagine that your teaching this year is going to feel very strange as well. And I thought about, I think Kathleen had mentioned that connection is missing. So I wanted to go into a few ideas that you could do with your students. And everything that I was reading and all the ideas that I'm coming up with right now are in this paper called Yoga for Yoga for a Pandemic, and that is in your Drive folder as well if you want to read a little bit more about those ideas. So I think that we need to counter all of this virtual time with more connection, like really proactively. And this is such a chaotic time, and I believe we can meet that with awareness. So first, to start with awareness, awareness is really at the core of yoga. So what is yoga? It's being aware, being self-aware, knowing who you are, being aware of other people, being aware of what's at the core of what's happening, as opposed to reacting, then we're able to respond, we're able to be still and experience what is really happening, rather than our minds making something up. So bringing awareness to something, I'm wondering if you could create some lessons for your kids, and this would be something that we'll do in a few minutes as well as in little breakout groups. You can talk to your people and come up with a few ideas for this for yourself. But I would ask kids, I'd involve them into this bigger conversation. They're very, very capable and very aware already. But I would ask them, what is different about being with people through a computer and what is missing? And I would invite them to even dive into what is connection. So if it's this thing that we're missing right now, and we label it with a word, but what is it truly? What does it truly mean to be connected? Can I be connected to you through the screen? Can I be connected to somebody through a mask? Can I be connected 6 feet away from somebody? And there can be some incredible innovation, I believe, that these kids could come up with. So maybe you can give them an assignment. Say, can you go find a deeper level of connection with somebody who is in your small circle? Can you find a way to connect with a neighbor at a distance in a way that you may never have done before, but a way to find connection even though there is distance? And then how can you create connection through a screen? What are some things that we can do to feel like we know each other and that there's some relationship? So I think kids can really come up with this kind of stuff too, especially those older kids. I hope you're not spending much screen time with little kids. That's just going to be hard. So some more awareness would be, instead of just saying, okay, now we're doing this online, like, let's go everybody, but maybe taking a time to be like, holy crap, like, I can't believe that we're doing it like this. I can't believe this pandemic is still here. Were you all hoping with me that this would just go away? Holy moly, right? Like, take a moment to really be with what is happening right now. Asking them questions like, what changes have you actually liked since this pandemic started? What changes don't you like? What have you learned about yourself? And if you had to plan a pandemic, what would you have had all the people do? What would have been your plan? I would love to hear their answers on that one. So bringing awareness to it again, rather than just glossing over it, saying there's a lot to experience and feel right now. And that might really set up the classroom to feel very connected and give them some of this heart awareness that they need. And then the other thing is connection. So what is connection? I would say that we all need more connection to other people, more connection to nature, and more connection to ourselves. Connection to self can be done through meditation and yoga. I'm wondering if you could invite your older kids to find a time each day to meditate, or have it just be an assignment to sit in some sort of meditation. And again, meditation can be so simple. It can be sit quietly and notice what you're feeling and what you're, or even just sit quietly for 5 minutes by yourself, doing nothing else. And then another way to connect to self would be to learn about new parts of yourself. They could have an interview with somebody to say, how do you see me? Like, who am I to you? You know, what do you notice about me? What do you like about me? Or you could ask them to learn a new skill, something that's of the physical nature, so that they can connect to their physical body as well. So maybe they could go do a yoga class somewhere. Maybe they can go kayaking, or take up cooking or knitting or sewing, or like, what kind of physical thing could you maybe prescribe to your students? Say, why don't you go find something that's physical for yourself to do? And then connection to nature. One option you could have your kids do is to take a slow walk around their neighborhood alone each day. Being alone as well is something these kids don't do very often and can be very healing for them. Or they might learn something from it. They may not like it, and that's okay. You just learned from it, right? Maybe they could take the same route and watch for changes along the way. They could walk mindfully, which is basically just mean enjoying the walk. So you're not looking at your phone, you're not planning, you're not arguing with people in your mind. You're just out for a walk. Yeah, we all do that one, right? If only he could hear all my great things that I have to argue right now. And you might notice your senses. So we have the 5 senses: smell, sight, touch, taste, and I always forget one. You know what the 5 senses are. So you could choose one sense to take a walk with and notice. You might go out and find one thing from each sense on your walk. And you might invite them to spend a little more time in nature. So go to a forest or near water and listen to all the sounds around them. And then ask them as well. Ask them what they can do to find more connection to people, to nature, and to themselves. So I would love to take just a few minutes, if that would work, Kathleen, in some breakout groups you had mentioned. You take care of that, right?
Sure.
Okay.
For a second. Okay, I'm going to put you guys in breakout rooms. You'll be asked to join. Just click join. And you can talk to each other. Probably a good idea to turn on your camera and unmute your microphones. And then when we close it, you'll get a warning that says breakout rooms are going to close. So.
And then should I give them the questions now?
You bet.
Okay. So some things I would invite you to see: how can we find more connection? As what I was just talking about, what could we do for the kids that gives them opportunities for more connection and more awareness? And how do you think you can use this in your classroom or virtually? So what are you taking away from this, basically? And you don't have to answer each of these. These are just a few things for you to work on. And what landed for you about how you can take care of yourself as the educator using these yoga concepts. And then think about more specifically, logistically, if you have anywhere outside to take your students. And I don't know if that's something you talk about to each other or not, but those are some questions to take home with you, if not. So how are you going to use everything you've learned in your classroom? Hopefully you can talk to each other about that.
Okay, are you ready? Should we do it? Here we go. Here we go.
Oh, good.
So I'll give everybody a minute, so finish up.
Can I get off camera for just a second?
Sure.
Am I off camera if I'm over here by the door?
Yep. Yes.
You know, from Whole Foods. Just have to choose. They're back choose.
30 seconds.
That was clever.
I had never done one of those. That was slick.
Up if that's your first time using breakout rooms. Pretty fun.
I didn't have to do it.
Coming back.
You got a break, so take some deep breaths.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't have to make it happen. I still don't know how to do that on Zoom.
Yeah.
I tell you, I'm being dragged kicking and screaming.
Doing great though.
Thanks. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys got a chance to talk to each other. I wish that I could get to know all of you face to face a little bit more too, but that's what it is. I want to take just about 5 or so minutes to hear any more questions or brief comments. And then we'll do a closing meditation, and that will be the end of our time. So is there anything that you have to add?
Yes,
Feel
I
free to
just
unmute
wondered, I had taken yoga from you before. Are you doing any adult classes right now?
Working on it.
Okay.
I was on maternity leave during this pandemic, which was beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
I am trying to figure out what to do with.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the
emails from
preschool.
you.
And then, oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll
There will
watch
be
for
some.
those.
There will be some outside in Missoula soon.
Okay.
Trying to get a couple things sorted out, and then I will definitely do distanced outside yoga classes soon. So if you're interested, just email me to get on my email list, and I'll announce it to you. And again, my contact information will be in the Drive folder.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will not be teaching online yet. It's going to be a few more months before I will do that. There are tons of people teaching online right now, though, so you can go find your yoga classes also. But I will do some in Missoula in person distance soon. Anybody else? Any comments? Any questions? Just make sure to unmute yourself if you're going to say something. Okay, good. Hi, Jordan.
Yeah. Hey, I was wondering, I know you mentioned some trauma-informed yoga trainings. Do you have any that you recommend or that you've heard are good?
I don't. I'm sorry. But I can definitely put you in touch with my colleague who does this for a living. She might not be doing it anymore, but she was the middle school counselor at CS Porter.
Okay.
And she is also a yoga educator for children. And she's just incredible. She's doing a private practice now of psychology and counseling and all. So I'll put you in touch with her definitely if you want to just send me an email. And then we're going to do, hopefully next summer, we'll do another kids yoga teacher training. And there's definitely a few hours about trauma-informed yoga during that. So, and she and I do that together. Her name is Amy. And yeah, so highly recommend that. It would be really fun to have you do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Judy, I saw your microphone show up. No? Okay. All right. Do you see any typed in questions, Kathleen?
Let me do a quick check again, and
Right.
we are good.
I guess I had a question, or I don't know, would be interested in hearing your comments. We talked about, how some of us are only going to see our kids twice a week, and especially as a high school teacher, I see them twice a week for 45 to 50 minutes. So, how effective do you think, I mean, I guess this is what you're doing, it would be to do some sort of pre-recorded, if that's what we have to do, mindfulness session, or try to work that in when we're with them in person? What's your thoughts on that?
What I think is, I would imagine even you guys would think back to the educators in your lives who really saw you and listened to you and the impact that they made. And that is yoga, even though everybody's going to call everything a completely different thing. But I think if you get to see them face to face here, or if you get to see them in a classroom, the simplest thing we can do is really be present with them and see them and be open to them and create relationship. And that on its own would be incredible right there. So it's kind of like how we are with our kids, with these kids. And then I would say if you're seeing them infrequently, I would do just like a couple minutes at the beginning and a couple minutes at the end of some sort of like sit and notice, or a couple breaths, or like a few stretches. And then I also think that they're going to be very hungry, especially teenagers, for and sometimes teenagers don't want to do yoga either, so I like the idea of calling it just stretching, but mindfulness or awareness of self. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think maybe less would even be more in these scenarios. I think that would be a good idea if you could record even just like 1 minute of you leading a breath and a little stillness and a little silence on a YouTube video, if that's even something you're allowed to do, I would imagine, I don't know. And that they could access that again and again. You could do Sarah, you could do your entire one in Spanish, and they'd have to learn it to hear what you're saying. Yeah, but that's a good idea. I would say recording some sessions might be a really useful tool.
Sarah, the other thing that last spring my Spanish colleagues and I did was, when we were just only online, was like a slide at the beginning of the lesson, and we only had 2 lessons a week online last spring, but that had like a check-in about how they felt. And so it was sort of like the 4 emotions that we did, but it was just like a Google slide, I think. I could try to share it with you if you put your email in the comments. And then they chose or circle, it was like a drag and drop thing, like the face. Oh. And then it was in Spanish, so it lined up with the picture of the face, and then like, me siento feliz or whatever, and they could choose. And then at the bottom, you could scaffold it based off the level, but there was just like a simple like, por qué, because, and then they could fill in with just like a few words or expand more why if they had the language.
I love that. That's great.
So it's kind of a simple thing, but.
And I would mention the reason I love the feeling chart is it teaches that we can have more than one feeling at a time, rather than putting kids into a box, which is more of the way that we do it in our traditional society. And it also says you can have a small amount of the feeling or a lot of each feeling. And so not that I necessarily want you spreading my silly little chart all over the place, but you could make something similar. The idea that there is you can have more than one feeling. They mix together to be more complicated feelings, and that a small amount of fear, for example, is called nervousness, but it's all fear, all the way up to terrified. A small amount of anger is just kind of irritated, like something is in your room that's just bothering you, like a light. That's actually like 3% anger. So having that awareness that we can be walking around with all these little bits of these feelings and be okay with it, or maybe solve the problem. And then they mix and they get bigger, and if we're not paying attention to them when they're small, then that's when things blow up later. So paying attention to these feelings, you can have multiple, like 0 to 100%. But I would also say, like, that's the more specific way, but I would also say just saying, hi, I see you. How are you today? No, really, I really want to know, how are you feeling today? Can do wonders for connection and relationship. All right. So please feel free to email me. I'll have my contacts sent out. And if you want any other resources, or if you have any questions about what I've taught, or if you want to do more education, I can give you all that information. I love answering questions. I do have a 3-year-old and a new baby, as I said, so I might be slow in responding, but I will do it because I love connecting with all of you and giving you the tools that you might want. All right, we have about 4 minutes, and I would love for you to once again center as our closing meditation. So I'll start with our 3 peace breaths, lead you through a little centering, and then we'll end with our peace breaths as well. Peace. So take a moment once again to notice how you feel, to notice that you do have a body. Feel your belly moving as you breathe. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel everything else, maybe a little indigestion or a small headache, or maybe your brow is furrowed a lot like mine is recently. Can you feel all of these things without needing to change any of them? Every time your mind wanders, simply bring it back. Little thoughts will come in and you can allow them to float by and say, oh, hi, little thought. And then come back to sensing your physical body. Feeling your breath coming in and going out. And then slowly, slowly expanding that breath. So a little bit more in each time. A little bit more out. Relaxing on your exhale, filling up on your inhale. You can imagine that all around you is life force energy. In yoga we call it prana. And that you're breathing in this life force energy to fill up your entire body. It travels to your belly, down to your legs, down to your toes. It fuels you. And it rides in on your breath. On your exhale, simply relax your body. Soften and allow. Then finally imagine a bubble around you. You can make it any color you want, but it is of everything going well energy. We don't have a lot of that out there. So you can actually create everything going well energy. And it's in your bubble space. Give it a nice color that goes along with everything is going well. Optimism. And then place that bubble, leave that bubble around you, but then also put that bubble around your computer, around your classroom that you imagine, around the group of kids that you're going to have, around the curriculum that you're working on. And just feel this everything is going well feeling. Getting into every little bit of your school year this year. We'll finish with our peace breaths. Peace. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. It was wonderful to see you and hear from you. And I wish you all the luck in the world as you do this school year. I'll be thinking of you.